Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my review of the Alien Earth series. We've been doing every single episode per your request. We did episodes 1 through 3 as one big video, and now we did episode 4, and now we are all the way up to episode 5. And I'm happy to report that episode 5 is probably the best episode in the series so far, I would dare to say. I really, really like this one a lot, but it also comes with some funny caveats that made me feel some things that I was like, oh no. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. Of course, like last time, I'm going to be doing spoilers and then spoiler free if you haven't seen it yet. Once again, the spoiler section will be shorter because you can only talk about an episode so much of an individual episode without it being spoilery. But this one is a return to form. This is a flashback that goes all the way back into all the events that happened on the Maginot, which is the ship where all of the original experiments were on, that Morrow was sort of in charge of, but we'll get to that. But the flashbacks, I know a lot of people said in the original episode 1, they were kind of sad that like all that kind of happened off screen. You really didn't get to see what happened on the Maginot. So almost like psychically, they went, let's do a full flashback episode so you can see. And it's here. It's really, really good. And I love it to death. The thing that I could actually talk about without spoilers is that it was so good that like it really made me realize that we kind of don't actually need the whole Neverland, Wendy, Lost Boys thing at all, which kind of feels weird because I know that's kind of one of the biggest gripes about the series is they're not really into the Lost Boys, or they're not really into Joe, they're not really into Boy Cavalier and the whole like synthetic hybrids storyline, which I don't hate it. I don't really like love it a lot. I think it's fine, but it really felt to me watching episode 5, I'm like, oh, it really is just fine because this stuff's amazing. This is great. I would watch a whole show around the downfall of the Maginot because this was sick. Which made me feel bad. I'm like, because like Wendy's a cool character, and I think Joe's growing on me, and I like all the things happening in like the current timeline of the show, but the Maginot like downfall was so cool to watch. Oh, it made me feel guilty feelings about not necessarily needing the other stuff. So whoopsies. Yeah, I think that's about all I can say about it. If in terms of like the spoiler free section, this is probably like the best episode in the series so far. If you really like the more alien leaning kind of vibes of the show, as opposed to kind of like more Prometheus kind of like, you know, big moral question, kind of like Wendy Lost Boys plotline, this returns more to like the alien-esque stuff. So if you like the original film, this is almost like a mini alien movie, like a movie short, which is very, very good and very, very cool. So I definitely highly recommend it. But yeah, this is going to be the end of the spoiler-free section. All right, so getting into the spoilers section, man, was this episode cool. I really liked it a lot, and it made me sad that I was it made me realize how much I really don't need the stuff with the Lost Boys and Wendy, even though I like them. Also, I'm sorry if my voice is a little hoarse here. I have been sick this week, so it's probably coming through with my voice. So my apologies. Yeah, if you liked Morrow before, this episode like completely redefines him and makes you like him even more. It really kind of shows that he was kind of like a loose cannon in the series up until this point in the current plot line, and it really plays him as more of this like lawful / true neutral kind of character who just wants to see the job done, and he'll do anything to do it. But it really shows the humanity in Morrow, because there's a lot of flashbacks in this episode to the aforementioned daughter that he said he had in previous episodes, which you found out died very young at the age of 19 in a fire. So he just had to be out on this spaceship knowing his daughter's dead, even though how much she means to him. Probably miserable, absolutely miserable. Furthermore, kind of jumping ahead, the opening scene that we see of Morrow, which paints him in kind of a negative light, is when Zaveri, I believe her name is like banging on the door to the mother room, and she's like, let me in. He very coldly like, you know, goes over with his little flame thing, solders the door, makes sure she can't get in, and then she just gets eaten by the Xenomorph, and you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. He's so cold and uncaring. But this episode provides context on that, because she did the same thing, maybe not maliciously, but she also locked Morrow and everybody else on the ship out of the bridge, because the plan was to get everybody to the bridge so they'd be safe. But because she was being chased by the Xenomorph, she locked everybody else out. Sure, it was a heat of the moment thing, but yeah, you totally doomed the rest of your crew so you would be safe. So it really paints that scene in a different light of like Morrow going, oh, you did it to me. Of course, if we're morally talking about it, like eye for an eye, not so great. Eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, but it definitely paints the entire scene in a different light that makes Morrow not seem actually as cold and uncaring as much as it's just like, well, she did it to him not too long ago, so I guess fair is fair. The episode is it's just so cool. Like, I don't even know where to begin, because like, while I'm not as attached to these characters because we've spent like zero time with them, like I can see the crew fully filled out. You have the engineer, who is kind of like almost like the heart of the crew. You have Zaveri, who like you see, like you initially have sympathy for her for obviously being mauled by the Xenomorph episode 1, but you realize that like she's really irresponsible and kind of like not a good leader in this episode, where she's breaking the rules by frick-fracking one of the crew. When she's actually put in charge, she has the option to pass it to Morrow, who is doing a better job than her, but she kind of egotistically takes it for herself just because she's like, well, I want it. And then when bad things actually start happening with the tick things that get out, she decides that she's like, oh yeah, just let him operate. Oh, never mind. We're stealing it. Oh, like she's so flip-floppy with her decision making. Basically, nobody on the crew is listening to her because they know that she's like not doing a good job. It's just like, it really paints her in a different light because she's so sympathetic in episode 1, and then you realize that like she kind of just doesn't have her stuff together, and there's a reason that like people were harsh on her and that like Morrow locked her out in that opening scene of episode 1. Also, the coolest thing about this is we get even more like alien action for things that aren't the Xenomorph. Like I want to see what's up with the Ocellus, right? Because like it seemed like it was warning Chibuzo. I think I got her name right, Chibuzo. Where the eye was trying to warn them about the ticks getting out. Like if for some reason the eyeball was like, hey, those guys are getting out over there. And I thought it was really cool. I was like, because every alien so far has been positioned as just this hostile, evil thing, which is cool. It's alien, but like I like the idea that the one's like, you might want to look out for that over there. Like one that's not completely malevolent and might have some sense of like, you might want to watch out for that. I've heard this scene also interpreted as it like trying to be annoying so it could, distract her, but to be put up there without being locked in. But that scene's not tied to that really, because what keeps her from locking it fully in up there is she gets interrupted by another crewmate. It's not it being annoying that gets it up there. So I don't think it's directly related. I don't think that thing has precognition and could tell that was going to happen. So I'm running with the idea that it for some reason it's like, you might want to be careful about that. Those guys are out, which I thought was cool. Also, speaking of that, the fact that we finally got to see it take over somebody. It took over the engineer guy, which was super sick. And it's also another bait and switch because it does the little thing where it makes you think it's calling for the Xenomorph, but it's actually like trying to throw down with the Xenomorph, which leads me to believe one of two things. One, my theory of what I thought about earlier, which like its whole thing is just trying to reach as good of an organism as it can in order to like be as perfect as possible, is true, because obviously the Xenomorph is the perfect organism, the ultimate weapon. So if it got into the Xeno, that'd be perfect. Or maybe the Ocellus and the Xenomorph have beef. They have a history. Maybe on some other part of LV-426, those things exist and they don't like those guys, which would be kind of like a cool callback to like the red versus black Xenomorph thing that happened in the comics, except instead of Xenomorphs, it's these little eye guys. That would be cool. I'd be so down for that. I would watch another season about those two throwing down and a bunch of cool, well-written characters in between. That would be great. I would love that. That'd be awesome. I do want to say, though, I got so taken out when the eye jumps on the Xenomorph and he's like, hey, get it off me. It was like such a human reaction that it was like, it came off comical instead of terrifying. Because realistically, the idea of the Ocellus getting into a Xenomorph skull and controlling a Xenomorph is like DEFCON 5. We cannot let that happen. Something of that level of super intelligence inside the biggest killing machine in the franchise so far, that cannot happen. That is doomsday material. But it was not at all that serious because it was, get it off of me. it was so unserious. I could not take it seriously. Yeah, stop it, get it off. It was cool though. It was cool to see them fight. Oh man, it was too good. But the entire series is not, or this entire episode is not just a flashback. That we do get a bit at the end where Morrow does decide to come back to Yutani. probably because he actually has something he could work with now. So he probably wasn't holding off on telling Yutani because he wasn't going to involve her at all, but it was just because until he had some sort of foothold to get the Xenomorph off of the island, he didn't really want to like come to her with nothing. So now that he does, he came to her and she says, and I quote, "Give him everything he needs." And I was like, so things are going to go bad for good old Prodigy and Boy Cavalier. And honestly, while I'm not like, I don't have a horse in this race, Morrow obviously is my favorite character right under Kirsch. So it's cool to see him doing cool things. And it makes me, dude, speaking of that, him just very slowly taking over like everything on the Maginot because everybody just keeps sucking at their job. It's very funny. Like there's one point right after where the tick stuff happens and 3 people die at once on the crew because of the ticks. And Morrow just looks at Zaveri, who's like just frozen in fear, and he goes, "I'm taking over the ship now." Like he's so cool. He's so cool. I'll be like, "Yes, sir." Also, speaking of that scene, right after Morrow leaves her there, the Xenomorph popping down from the vents and like kind of creeping up on her was the most alien thing that has happened in the Alien like film or show franchise. Like on screen, the most alien an alien has ever acted since the original. That little drop down to the "what you doing?" like the little like slink over. Ooh, it was so good. It was so good. That to me, I was like, I know clearly that's a guy in a rubber suit and they do a bad job of hiding it in that show, but that was the most like alien behavior I have seen since the original. That was such a good scene. I love this episode. This is the best episode in the series so far. I will watch this episode back by itself just for fun because there's so much good stuff in here. I'm like, Also, we found out the ticks do more than just the blood sucking thing. They can apparently make more ticks, like tiny ticks, that if they're ingested can grow inside of you and feed off you from the inside out, which is freaky because they were already weird and uncomfortable with what they actually did. So them having an extra ability was an uncomfortable development, but a welcome one. The one critique I do have for this episode, and it's a very minor gripe, is the guy who ends up being the saboteur is just like an off-screen guy. And while I do like the twist that like he can pretend he's in like isolation in his little cryo sleep, but still be wandering around the ship, I like that as a twist, but I wish it was one of the named characters. The fact that they kind of pulled just oh, by the way, it was this guy off screen you didn't even know about. That felt kind of lame. That was the only thing I was like, okay, cool, but like, couldn't have been one of the named characters. That way I was like, I can't believe you did this. That was another thing that makes Morrow super cool, that kind of like highlights that he's like not as bad of a guy as like the show has made him out to be so far, is like his little Clem, the little like cohort he has, his little buddy for security. Like he genuinely seems to care about this guy. He's like, "You're gonna be fine, you're gonna be okay." He's like genuinely like trying to comfort him as he's like in this gunfight and like getting hit and stuff. He's like, "Look at me, everything's gonna be okay." Like he's like genuinely like trying to comfort him while this bad stuff is happening. And it shows a level of humanity in the character that I don't think we've had so far. And I think it comes at not a better time with him blackmailing Smee and really messing with his brain, or slightly. Smee's the other guy. Slightly. Him blackmailing Slightly and making him like holding his parents hostage and making him upset and all this stuff. Like we needed a kind of something to level that out in terms of like, hey, he's not the worst guy in the world on top of him doing something really awful immediately before. So I think it came at a perfect time in like the show's like timeline. Yeah, I love this episode. I love this episode so much. Yeah, I hope you loved it as much as I did. What was your favorite part? Let me know down in the comments below. For me, I think it's the Ocellus and Xeno fight. I was like, let's go. Right, if you're back here, you probably skipped over from the spoiler-free section to now for the rating. For those of you that were here before, sorry for the random jump. But if I was going to give this episode a rating, no shocker there, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. This is the best episode in the series so far, and if you liked the like first 2 episodes more than kind of what we've been doing the like 3 or 4 episodes, or episode 3 and 4 rather, this is a return to form, a lot of really cool alien stuff. I think this is going to be the most rewatched episode in the series up until this point, until we see the other ones. This one's like 10 out of 10, chef's kiss, no notes. And the only notes I had was the spoiler one that was very minor, but Honestly, it doesn't affect things too much, but otherwise, fantastic episode. You should definitely watch it. Yeah, what do you guys think about episode 5? Let me know down in the comments below. But on that, that's be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, because it's how I know I'm doing a good job on the back end. That would especially help on videos like this that are off of my typical DBD content, because I know that a lot of people don't come to this because they just come for DBD stuff. They don't care about Alien as a franchise in general. So I would really appreciate if you did the like and subscribe thing more than ever, since these videos typically don't do as well. Other than that, hopefully this video made your day a little bit better today, friends. If it didn't, I'll try to do so again in the next video. If I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.